Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hey, good to be here.
I want to start today with a very specific feeling, a specific sound. I want you to imagine this low, constant hum,
Okay.
maybe a little whirring noise. And it comes with that, that distinct smell of warm plastic
Yeah.
in a room that's always just a little bit hotter than the rest of the house.
You are describing, with painful accuracy, the home lab. The server under the stairs.
It's server under the stairs, exactly. And for a certain kind of person, and I am 100% that person, that sound is, well, it's the sound of freedom. It means you're hosting your own stuff.
You're in control.
You're in control. And specifically today, we're talking about the holy grail of that setup, the personal AI agent, the dream of having your own Jarvis, sitting on a server in your basement, running your digital life.
It's the ultimate sci-fi promise, isn't it? An AI that knows you, that has your context, but doesn't send all your private data off to some giant corporation.
But the reality of that dream is usually you're just a part-time sysadmin for a computer that's way too hot.
That's the home lab tax. You want the autonomy, you have to pay for it with maintenance. You're, patching Linux kernels on a Saturday morning instead of actually using the AI.
Which brings us to today. We're looking at a release from February 7th, 2026 that claims it can fundamentally change that whole equation. The project is called Moltworker.
It comes out of the Cloudflare ecosystem. We're pulling from this really great technical breakdown by Robert Krzeski over at InfoQ.
Right.
And this is a big deal because what we're watching is the personal agent packing up its bags. It's moving out of your basement and onto the edge.
To the edge. It always sounds so dramatic, like a movie trailer.
Well, in a way it is. It's the edge of the network, the servers that are physically closest to you.
So our mission today is to figure out if this is, a real replacement for that home server. We need to unpack the architecture, which is honestly kind of weird.
It's clever.
And we need to figure out how it can be an always-on assistant without actually being always on. And frankly, decide if we're okay with the trade-offs.
Because there are always trade-offs.
Always. Okay, so let's start with the basics. We've got Moltbot and Moltworker. They sound like, I don't know, Transformers. What's the difference?
Okay, so think of Moltbot as the brain, the actual personality. If you've been in the open source AI space for a while, you might remember it by its old name, Clawdbot.
The font bot, right? I remember that. That was like
Yeah.
a self-hosted chat interface for talking to LLMs.
Exactly. So Moltbot is the application. It's the code that says, I have an assistant, I can connect to Telegram, I can read a web page for you. It's the software.
Okay, simple enough. Moltbot is the software. So then Moltworker is the house it lives in.
Almost.
And
Moltworker is more like the special adapter that lets that house be built on Cloudflare's very specific plot of land.
Hold on, why do you need a special adapter? Can't I just, upload the code to the cloud and press run?
Not on Cloudflare's developer platform, no. And this is the key thing to understand. It's not like renting a server, a VPS, from Amazon or something.
All right.
You don't get a computer that's on 24/7. You get workers.
Serverless.
Serverless. Ephemeral. So Moltworker is this open source bridge that takes the Moltbot application and sort of wraps it up so it can survive in that environment.
So it gets rid of the need for hardware. No Raspberry Pi, no overheating little box on my desk.
Correct. But in doing so, it introduces a huge engineering challenge.
Which is?
Amnesia.
Amnesia.
Yeah. Think about your home server. It's got RAM, it's got a hard drive, it's always on. If you tell it, hey, remind me to buy milk, it just holds that thought.
Because it's always running. It has persistent memory.
A Cloudflare worker is the opposite. It's ephemeral. It wakes up in milliseconds when a request comes in, it does its job, and then poof, it's gone. The memory is wiped clean.
So if I'm chatting with my agent, I say hello, it wakes up, says hi, and then immediately dies. And when I reply, how are you? A totally new one wakes up that has never met me before.
By default, yes. That's the fundamental problem. You can't run a stateful AI agent on a stateless platform.
So how on earth does Moltworker solve this? Because an assistant with that kind of memory loss is not very useful.
Right. So the InfoQ article breaks down the architecture, and it's this really elegant assembly of different Cloudflare services. It's like they built a machine that can perfectly freeze frame itself.
Okay, walk me through it. I send a message to my agent. What happens?
First, it hits the entry point. That's a standard Cloudflare worker. Think of it as the receptionist. Its only job is to route your message and check that you're allowed to be there.
The bouncer at the club.
The bouncer. Once you're past the bouncer, it hands you off to the runtime. And that's where the actual Moltbot logic lives. But here's the trick. It runs inside what's called a sandbox container.
A sandbox. So it's all walled off and secure.
Isolated, yes. But we still have that memory problem. So to solve the amnesia, they use Cloudflare R2.
R2 is their storage service, like
Yeah.
Amazon S3, right?
Exactly. It's a big bucket for data. So here's the whole life cycle. You send a message, the agent wakes up, the very first thing it does is reach into that R2 bucket and pull down its brain state.
It downloads its own personality.
Instantly. The entire conversation history, your preferences, everything. It loads all that into memory.
Wow.
Then it processes your message, figures out a reply, and this is the crucial part, before it goes back to sleep, it serializes its new state and writes it right back to that R2 bucket.
So it wakes up, reads its diary to remember who it is, answers my question, writes a new page in the diary, and then dies. Every single time I send a message.
Every single turn of the conversation.
I have to play devil's advocate. That sounds slow. Reading and writing from storage across a network on every single message. Wouldn't that add a ton of latency?
You'd think so, and maybe 5 years ago it would have. But you have to remember, this is all happening on Cloudflare's internal network. The worker and the R2 bucket are probably in the same data center, maybe even the same server rack. We're talking milliseconds.
So it's basically invisible to me, the user.
Almost entirely. I mean, compared to the time it takes the actual AI model to generate the text, the thinking part, that storage fetch is nothing.
Okay, so it's fast enough. But what about the developers? I mean, rewriting an app to work in this weird wake-up die loop sounds like a complete nightmare.
It used to be, and the article actually points to a really specific technical change that makes this all possible now in 2026. It's the improvements in Node.js compatibility.
What does that mean exactly? What was the problem before?
Well, historically, edge workers didn't run a full version of Node.js. It was a stripped-down JavaScript runtime, more like what's in a web browser. So if you tried to use a standard NPM package, it would just break.
Because it was looking for things that weren't there.
Right. It was expecting certain APIs or environment variables that only exist in a standard Node environment. So developers had to use all these hacks, polyfills, workarounds.
Duct tape and prayers.
Exactly. But now, Cloudflare supports most of the core Node APIs natively, so Moltworker can just pull in standard libraries and they just work. That's why this is happening now. The friction is finally low enough.
Okay, so we've got a brain that can remember things. But a brain in a jar isn't all that useful. I want an agent that can do things. You mentioned browser control.
And this, I think, is the real killer feature. This is what makes it more than just a chatbot.
Because large language models, LLMs, they're just text generators. They're blind. They can't click on a button.
Right. If you ask a normal model, hey, what's the price of this flight on Expedia? It's just guessing. It might have seen the price yesterday, or it might just make something up.
Hallucinates.
You can't actually see the website. But Moltworker integrates with something called Cloudflare browser rendering.
A headless browser, right.
A whole fleet of them running in the cloud. Headless Chromium instances.
And headless just means it's the browser engine without any of the visual stuff, no window on a screen.
Exactly. So picture this. You ask Moltbot, go log into my utility company's website and tell me how much electricity I used last month.
A task I would very much love to outsource, by the way.
So the agent spins up one of these secure headless browsers. It navigates to the URL. It actually renders the page, clicks the login button, fills in your credentials from a vault.
It's literally driving the internet on my behalf.
It is. It scrapes the data it needs, feeds that back into its context, and then gives you the answer.
Okay, but why is this better on the edge? I can run a headless browser on my home server. I've done it with tools like Puppeteer.
You have. And how much RAM did it use?
All of it. Chrome eats all the RAM.
Right. Browsers are incredibly resource heavy. Running a full Chromium instance on a little Raspberry Pi will bring it to its knees. By offloading it to Cloudflare, you're basically renting their giant computers for just the 30 seconds you need them.
And there has to be a security benefit here, too.
Oh, it's huge. Think
Yeah.
about it. If you send your home server's browser to some sketchy website and it gets hit with malware.
That malware is now inside my house. It's on my network.
Yep. But if the Cloudflare browser gets infected, the sandbox just evaporates. It's gone. It never touched your home network. It's containment by design.
That is a very compelling argument. It's
Yeah.
like giving your agent hands but making it wear hazmat gloves.
And the brain itself, the connection to the LLMs, that's managed by the Cloudflare AI Gateway. It routes all the requests and gives you observability.
Observability is just a fancy word for logs, isn't it?
It's logs with nice charts. But yeah, you can see how much you're spending, which models you're using, if there are errors.
And what about keeping other people out? How do I make sure I'm the only one talking to my all-powerful web browsing agent?
That's handled by Cloudflare's Zero Trust Access.
That sounds intense.
It's enterprise-grade security. It sits in front of your agent and handles all the authentication before a request can even touch your code. It's a proper identity shield.
Okay, so let's recap. On paper, this seems like a slam dunk. No hardware to manage, it scales infinitely, it's more secure, it has browser automation. Why would anyone ever buy a home server again?
Well, hold on. This is where we hit the real tension. Because the community reaction, which the InfoQ article touches on, it's mixed.
I can imagine. The self-hosting world is, let's say, a little bit ideological.
Very. And on one side, you've got the pragmatists. The article quotes a user, Peter Choi, who says this just massively lowers the barrier to entry.
Right, because setting up a secure server scares most people away.
Exactly. Choi thinks this could significantly broaden adoption. It's for people who can write a bit of code but don't want to be a sysadmin. Another user called it a set-it-and-forget-it architecture.
Which is incredibly appealing. I love the tech, I hate the maintenance.
But then you've got the purists. And they ask a really valid question. If it runs on Cloudflare servers, is it really self-hosted?
It's someone else's server hosted.
It's not your hardware. The whole point of the home lab is total sovereignty. If my internet goes out, my local server still works.
But with Moltworker, if Cloudflare has an outage,
Your agent's brain goes dark.
and if Cloudflare decides they don't like what you're doing,
They can just turn it off. You're renting a really, really nice apartment, but you don't own the building.
and there's vendor lock in here too, isn't there? That term gets thrown around, but it feels like it really applies.
It's massive lock-in. Yes, the Moltworker code is open source. You can read it. But that code is written specifically for Cloudflare's services. It uses R2, it uses their browser rendering, their AI gateway.
So if they double the price next year, I can't just take my code and move it somewhere else.
Not without a huge rewrite. You are trading the chore of managing hardware for the chains of dependency on a single vendor.
A comfortable set of chains, maybe, but chains nonetheless.
It's a real philosophical debate.
Oh.
And Krzyzewski, the author, he makes it clear that Cloudflare is positioning this as a proof of concept.
So it's not a product.
Ah.
I can't go to their dashboard and click buy one Moltworker.
No, it's a demo. It's a flex. It's Cloudflare saying, look at what our platform can do. If you stitch together our workers, our storage, our AI tools, look at the incredibly complex applications you can build.
It's a blueprint for the future.
A blueprint for a future where they believe this kind of agent logic belongs on the edge, not on your device at home.
And that is a big shift. I mean, we've spent the last few years talking about running AI locally on your own machine.
And there's still a place for that, for sure,
Yeah.
for privacy, for offline use. But for an agent that needs to be online 24/7, checking things for you while you sleep, that really does belong in the cloud.
It sort of democratizes the power that only, the big tech companies used to have. Google has agents crawling the web. Now I can have one too for a few bucks a month.
That's the most exciting part. It really does level the playing field.
But I'm still stuck on that control issue. It feels like we're giving up something fundamental for all that convenience.
We are. But that's been the story of computing for 20 years, right? We went from our own servers to virtual machines, then to containers, now to serverless. Each step you give up some control, but you gain speed and simplicity.
Velocity over sovereignty.
That's it in a nutshell.
So let's bring this home. Moltworker is a bridge that lets our personal AIs live on the edge. It uses cloud storage for memory, headless browsers for hands, and a corporate security team as a bodyguard.
It's a really fascinating glimpse into where this is all going.
But it leaves us with that big, nagging question about control.
It does.
And that's what I want to leave everyone with today. We are definitely moving toward a world where our digital assistants are incredibly powerful. They can browse for us, buy things for us, act on our behalf. And the convenience of not having to manage the server it's undeniable.
It is very seductive.
But here's the question. As we hand over the keys to our digital kingdom to these agents, are we okay trading that physical control of the hardware for the ease of the edge? And at what point does the edge just become another black box computer we don't own, making decisions for us in a server rack we'll never even get to see.
That's the question that's going to define the next decade of this stuff.
Something to think about while you're manually updating your Docker containers this weekend.
Or while you're signing up for your free Cloudflare account.
Exactly. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay curious.
See you next time.